Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. And, sometimes I get these sources, and I get chills even before we start.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Sometimes you can feel it right away, like a draft in a sealed room.
Exactly. And today's story, well, it's one of those. And we're going to be looking into the disappearance and death of Elisa Lam. And the main source material we're using today, it's actually kind of unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah, excerpts from her Wikipedia page, but in Spanish.
Interesting choice. Why Spanish, though?
Well, I guess that's all part of the mystery, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it shows you just how far this case reached, how many people were fascinated by it. But even without that little twist, Elisa Lam's story, it's the kind that really gets under your skin.
Yeah.
A young Canadian student, only 21 years old, vanishes in Los Angeles.
And she leaves behind all these clues.
Right.
But they're like pieces from different puzzles.
It's 2013.
Yeah.
And Lisa's on this solo trip to California, traveling by train and bus. And, she's a student at the University of British Columbia, loves fashion, big into blogging. But she's also dealing with bipolar disorder and depression, which ends up being a really important part of trying to understand what might have happened.
And that's where the setting, it almost becomes like a character itself. She checks into the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA.
Oh, yeah. The
That's
Cecil.
not exactly known for being a happy place.
You can say that again. The Cecil is infamous.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking the Black Dahlia murder serial killers like Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger. They actually used it as a home base.
Wow.
Plus all the suicides and other dark events. It's like a textbook example of, if these walls could talk, you'd wish they'd just stay silent.
Yeah, and that darkness, it really hangs over Elisa's case, too. You have to wonder, is it just a creepy backdrop, or did something about the Cecil itself play a role in her fate? It's a question that just keeps coming back.
It does. So here she is at this hotel, checking in with her parents back home. Seems like she's enjoying her trip. And then January 31st rolls around. She's supposed to check out Head Santa Cruz.
Right.
But she never shows up.
Just gone?
Like she just vanished. The LAPD searched the Cecil top to bottom, but nothing. It's like she walked out of her room and into thin air.
Which, knowing the Cecil's reputation, almost makes it creepier.
Right, but hold on, because it gets even weirder. 2 weeks later, Valentine's Day of all days, the LAPD, they released this piece of evidence that throws gasoline on the fire, a surveillance video of Elisa from one of the hotel elevators.
Taken the day she disappeared.
Yep. This isn't just your everyday security cam footage.
I bet.
This is the kind of footage that makes you rewind and watch it again and again. And not because it's exciting, but because it's so unsettling. Elisa's behavior is just off.
Off how?
I mean, she's pressing all the elevator buttons, like frantically peering in and out of the elevator like she's playing hide and seek with someone who isn't there, and then gesturing into the hallway like she's having a conversation with a ghost.
Really?
Yeah. And her body language is all contorted, almost like she's trying to squeeze into a space that's too small for her.
Of course, the internet goes wild.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's trying to figure it out. Was she running from someone? Was it some kind of mental health episode tied to her bipolar disorder? Was the footage even real, or was it tampered with? Yeah, this video, it's a big part of why this case still has such a hold on people.
It really is. It's like a silent film that's screaming a question, but we can't quite make out what it's saying.
Yeah.
And then the story takes a turn that's not just unsettling, but truly tragic. February 19th, guests at the Cecil start complaining about the water.
What was wrong with the water?
Low pressure, discolored, and tasting strange.
And that's when they find Elisa.
Yeah, in one of the rooftop water tanks.
Oh my God. I mean, it's just horrifying and so confusing. At the same time, you've got this young woman missing for weeks, and then she turns up in a place that should have been completely impossible to get to.
It really makes you think, how did she even get up there? The roof access was supposed to be locked down, and those water tanks, they're not exactly easy to just climb into.
Yeah, not at all. It's like she broke the laws of physics and logic to end up there.
And that's what's fueled so much of the speculation about this case. I mean, the official autopsy ruled it an accidental drowning.
Right.
They said her bipolar disorder was a big factor. But for a lot of people, that just doesn't cut it. It's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
I see what you mean. You've got all these pieces, the locked roof, the water tank, her behavior in the elevator, and they just don't add up to a neat little picture of an accidental drowning.
Exactly. We need to look deeper. Go beyond just the events themselves and try to understand Elisa the person.
Good point. She was a blogger.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
She had this blog called Ether Fields on Blogspot.
What did she write about?
Fashion, travel, her mental health.
And reading those entries now, knowing what happened, it's like looking into her mind, a mind that was really struggling.
There's one post where she talks about a relapse that forced her to withdraw from classes.
Oh, wow.
She said she felt totally disoriented and lost.
That's heartbreaking.
And get this, she used a quote from Chuck Palahniuk as the title. "You're always haunted by the idea you're wasting your life."
Whoa, that's chilling. Especially considering how she died.
It really is. It's like she was battling with something much deeper than just your typical ups and downs.
Were those just, expressions of her depression? Or were there clues hidden in plain sight? Things that could help us understand what happened at the Cecil.
She also had a Tumblr blog, Nouvelle Nouveau, mostly fashion photos and quotes.
Uh-huh.
But again, there are these glimpses of something more, and you want to know something else.
What's that?
She used that same Palahniuk quote on her Tumblr, too.
No way.
Yeah.
So this idea of wasting her life, it was clearly on her mind.
It seems that way. It's almost like a key, but we're missing the lock. It fits.
Right. Did she feel trapped? Was there something specific she was afraid of? We know her parents didn't have the full picture of how much she was struggling.
That adds another layer to the mystery for sure.
Yeah.
Was she hiding a part of herself, even from her family?
And if we bring the Cecil back into focus, it's not just the general creepiness, but the specifics that start to feel important.
Yeah.
This wasn't just any old rundown hotel.
No, it wasn't.
It had a history of attracting darkness.
Like what?
I'm talking about Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. He lived there for a while.
Oh gosh, I remember that case.
And Jack Unterweger, another serial killer who specifically targeted prostitutes.
Huh?
I mean, this wasn't just a place with bad vibes. It was like a magnet for evil.
And that makes Elisa's decision to stay there even more unsettling now. Did she know about its history? Was it just a budget thing, or was there something that drew her to a place with such a dark reputation?
Maybe it's just human nature to look for patterns, but you can't help but wonder if she was drawn to that darkness or if it somehow made her more vulnerable.
We keep coming back to that elevator footage. We've
Yeah.
talked about how strange it is, but I think it's worth breaking it down even more. I mean, the way she's pushing those buttons so randomly, the way she keeps looking out into the hallway like she's waiting for someone, it's like she's caught between two worlds.
And then she steps out of the elevator and gestures into the empty hallway like she's having a conversation with someone we can't see.
It's almost like she's responding to something we can't perceive.
And her body language is so bizarre. It's not just nerves. It's like she's trying to fold herself into a different shape.
Some people have suggested she was having a psychotic episode related to her bipolar disorder.
But here's the thing. Remember, she was moved to a private room after her roommates complained about her behavior.
Right.
What did they see that made them so uncomfortable? Unfortunately, those details were never released.
Another piece of the puzzle that's just out of reach.
I know. It's frustrating. Was it just weird behavior, or did they witness something truly disturbing? And how does that connect to the elevator footage, which was taken after she was moved?
So many questions.
And then there's the biggest mystery of all. How did her body end up in that rooftop water tank? I mean, how is that even physically possible?
It really is the million-dollar question. The roof was locked, those tanks are hard to get into, and she was found naked even though her clothes are in the tank with her. It's like every answer just creates more questions.
Okay, before we go too far down this rabbit hole, I think it's time we start looking at the theories people have come up with to try and make sense of all this. Because let's be honest, even with the official explanation, there's a part of us that wants to really know what happened to Elisa Lam.
I agree. And in part 3 of our deep dive, that's exactly what we're going to do. We'll venture into those murky waters, exploring the explanations people have put forward from the plausible to the downright bizarre. We'll try to piece together the puzzle of Elisa Lam's final days.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dive into the theories about Elisa Lam's death.
Yeah, it's like we've got all these puzzle pieces laid out, but we still can't quite see the picture, so it's all blurry.
And that's where things get interesting, right? I mean, when there aren't any clear answers, our imaginations take over. We try to fill in the blanks, find a story that makes sense of the senseless.
Exactly. And with Elisa Lam's case, well, there's no shortage of theories.
So let's start with the most obvious one, foul play. I mean, given the Cecil's history, it's not a huge stretch to think that maybe she was the victim of a crime.
Right, especially with those serial killers who stayed there, and who knows how many others might have passed through those doors over the years.
And we still can't explain how she got onto that roof and into the water tank. The security footage never showed her going up there.
Yeah, nope.
And the access was supposed to be restricted.
So unless she had some kind of secret way of getting up there, it seems like someone else had to be involved.
But that raises another question. Why target Elisa? What was the motive?
That's the missing piece in the foul play theory. There's no clear reason why anyone would want her dead. There's no sign of a stalker or an angry ex, no evidence of a robbery or anything like that.
So what else is there?
Well, another theory that's been floated around is drug-induced psychosis. I mean, Elisa's behavior in that elevator video, it's pretty bizarre. It's possible she was on something that made her act so erratically.
Yeah, but the toxicology report came back clean.
True, but some people argue that certain drugs could have metabolized quickly, or maybe they weren't detectable with the standard tests.
I guess that's possible. But it still doesn't fully explain how she got into that water tank.
Unless, of course, we start venturing into the paranormal, which a lot of people have done with this case.
Oh, yeah. The Cecil Hotel, with its creepy history, practically screams haunted house. Some people think Elisa might have been influenced by evil spirits or maybe even possessed.
Given the hotel's reputation, it's easy to see why people would jump to that conclusion. But is it really a possibility, or are we just projecting our own fears onto the unknown?
That's the tricky thing with cases like this. The line between reality and speculation can get pretty blurry.
Especially at a place like the Cecil.
I mean, think about it. You've got this young woman struggling with her mental health, staying in a place that's practically soaked in darkness and tragedy.
It's like a recipe for a ghost story, even if you don't believe in ghosts.
And then you've got the really out there theories, like the idea that she stumbled into some kind of portal or dimensional rift.
Okay, that one might be pushing it a little too far.
I know, but I have to admit, a part of me is drawn to those explanations, even if I don't buy them completely. It's like they offer some kind of closure, even if it's a fantastical one.
I think that's what it comes down to. We want answers. We need to make sense of the senseless, and sometimes the most comforting explanations are the ones that defy logic.
But at the end of the day, the mystery of Elisa Lam remains just that, a mystery.
Maybe the truth is somewhere between the rational and the inexplicable. Or maybe it's something we haven't even considered yet.
It's possible. I guess we'll never know for sure.
We might not. But I think we can all agree that Elisa Lam's story is a reminder that sometimes, even in this world of technology and information, there are still mysteries that defy easy explanations.
And that those mysteries can teach us as much about ourselves, our need to understand and find meaning, as they do about the events themselves.
Absolutely. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into the Elisa Lam case. It's been a fascinating, if unsettling, journey.
It really has. And as we sign off, I'm left with one final question for our listeners. What do you think happened to Elisa Lam? What piece of the puzzle would you keep turning over in your mind, hoping it would unlock the truth?
Because sometimes the most important questions are the ones that stay with us long after the story is over.